Hey guys, welcome back to Music Business 101, sort of your introduction to the things that are super critical in the music business, but you're not ever really taught in books or courses, or the people aren't talking about this kind of stuff because to educate you and empower you will ultimately shift the power away from them to you. So there's not a whole lot of people that want you to have this information. So I'm going to round it out with what I feel are like three of the final most important points of the music business, which should seem intuitive. Honestly, they should seem like things that you should be thinking about. You're probably not. So I'm going to run through them and talk about why they're so critical to your success and why so many people fail in the music business, in the industry, because they don't have these three tools. So the first one I want to talk about is persistence. One of the things, when you think about any accomplishment in life, whether it's education, job, sports, anything that you're going after, the persistence is the ability to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And what we realize, and there's a lot of research on this, not just in the music industry, but pretty much every industry and every aspect of human life, is that if we don't persist in the things that are important, we're just not going to get them. And I mean, there's research out there that talks about, when you, I know it's kind of, people laugh about it, but when you don't plan, you plan to fail, right? Or when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So persistence is one of those keys where if you look at the chart of people, if we were able to map all the people who have tried to go after the music industry, try to make a success out of themselves or somebody else, we see that this persistence drop off. They're going, but it's hard, right? They hit obstacles, they hit opposition. No one cares. It reminds me of the movie 8 Mile, talking about, loosely based on Eminem's life, and how, you look at him in I think it's pretty much the opening scene as he goes on set, goes to this rap battle club, and he just fully chokes. But what happens is that 99% of all people will choke. Maybe it's early on, maybe it's after they've had some success, but if you persist, you'll get past not only the obstacle, but you'll get past the vast majority of people who will give up long before you. And so this is one of the simple, really simple critical keys, is that no one's going to want to push you past that point, because right now there's this huge mass of people that are fighting to get into the industry, right? And very few make it. But when you analyze how they made it, there's a lot of different reasons, obviously, but one of the main things is they persisted to get through the obstacles, to overcome the challenges, to keep going, keep going, keep going. And as this chronology gets longer, you see fewer and fewer people on it. And part of the reason why, too, is because when you go after the music industry, when you go after that as a career, or you want to be successful, most of the time people are doing it as sort of a side hustle. It's not their main thing. And if it's not their main thing, maybe they have a 9-to-5 job, maybe they have other responsibilities, maybe they've unrealistically given themselves, I'll give myself 6 months, I'll give myself a year, and if it doesn't happen by then. Look, anybody in the industry knows that if you're developing an artist, you're pretty much looking at a minimum 3-year investment. You can look at record deals and see that that's kind of the starting point. So you can't even begin to see a return on your investment if you're getting signed to a label. The label's not even going to see a return on its investment until maybe 3 years, 5 years. So how are you, with limited resources, limited access, limited contacts, going to try give it 6 months, give it a year? You've already basically given yourself a death sentence, saying this isn't going to happen, because when the obstacles come, and they will, and when you hit that timeline, 6 months, a year, whatever you've given yourself, that's like I said, probably unrealistic, what's going to happen is you're not going to persist, and you won't break through those walls. And that's why the mass of people stops after a couple of months, sometimes a couple of weeks, literally. They release one song, it gets out there, no one seems to care, and boom, they stop. So the mass of people is going to be at the first wall, and every single wall after that, you will see that fewer and fewer people make it past because they're not persisting through it. So, number one, in this final wrap up of these three main tools that you need to succeed in the music business: persist, persist, persist. Go after it. Now, the second one, which is, it's tied to it. It's definitely not the same thing, but it's tied to it, is your mental state, and what I think a lot of people in the generic business, music business and just business at large, call grit. And I think the difference here is that when you persist, it's the action of getting through. So you persist, you keep trying, right? The grit is this mental element. It's that overcoming nature within you that says, I don't care how hard it is, I'm going to go after it. Because persistence, you may keep trying the same thing and hitting a wall, right? Grit is going to keep you going until you get through that wall. Excuse me. So we want persistence, we want the ability to keep going after it, but we want that mental state to have a reason to have a motivation, to be compelled. I am going to get through this wall. That is the grit that I'm talking about. So you can develop that grit because it's a mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of approaching problems. It's the mental notes that you tell yourself, I can do this. I can get through this. Persistence is more about the action. Grit is more about the motivation, the internal energy that's happening when you try to go after what you want. If you only have one and not the other, like you can have grit, like I will not be broken. But if I don't persist, it doesn't matter. Even if my will is so strong, I'm not attacking that wall. I'm not trying to jump over that obstacle, right? But if I have this persistence, I'll jump over, but I haven't made it 100 times. Why would I make it this time? That's where grit comes in. So we need persistence and grit to keep trying and then mentally know we are going to get to the other side of this. There is no other option. And I referenced Eminem, 8 Mile, whatever, but even I can't remember the song. I think it's actually in that movie. But he talks about like, this is my one shot, and don't lose it. Don't give your chance. Don't ruin your chance. If you will keep persisting and you will develop that grit mindset of I'm going to accomplish this no matter what, I have no other choice, you will get where you're going. The final piece, so we talked about persistence, talked about grit, is consistency. And this is another, I would say it's kind of the perfect trifecta if you have all of these, where you have persistence, I'm going to keep trying, you have the grit, I know it's mental, I know I can do this. Consistency is more about how you execute, okay? So persistence in trying to break through a wall with a hammer is to keep just hammering, right? Grit is like, I'm not going to give up, I'm going to keep hammering. Consistency is starting to realize what works and doesn't work, and then going after the things that work and being consistent in doing them. So there are a lot of writers, songwriters, who will tell you consistency means writing even if you don't have anything to write. Getting at your computer, getting on your phone, getting in a writing room and just going for it. Consistency means repeatedly going after the thing that you're going after in the way that you're going after it. But in the music business, consistency also means finding the things that work. So if you're writing songs, you're recording, you're working with this producer, you're trying to do these shows, you're doing all the things that you should be doing. You're going after them, you got a good mindset on it, but you're just kind of scattershot. Well, let's try this. No, let's try this. No, let's try this. And you're just all over the place. Consistency also starts to look like reining in that scattershot and starting to go after the lanes in your activities that have the highest probability of success, and then repeating those. So if it means posting, little fireside chats on your lyric writing, if it means just doing acoustic sets, every Wednesday morning, if it means hanging out with certain creatives where those juices are going to get inspired or you're going to find your muse, whatever that means for you, consistency means starting to develop a habit of doing the same things. When we say over and over, think about Einstein. Einstein said, doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So consistency here doesn't mean just doing the same thing and expecting a different result as if you're doing it wrong. It means you've tried this, you've tried that, these things work. Be consistent in developing those things that are working. Start to spend less time on the things that are not working, more time on the things that are. And I hate to say it, but one of the things that might happen here is you might start to realize, hey, I'm being consistent as a songwriter, but it's not working. Something's just missing the mark. And so being consistent will start to highlight weaknesses. It'll start to highlight those pathways that are actually working for you. So if you're consistent, you will realize, you know what? I'm better when I'm live, not so much in the studio. So maybe you do more live sets. I don't know. It's a tough one, but my point is you'll start to find what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and then you want to double down on the things that are working for you, and you want to do them repeatedly. But consistency is not just about finding what works and doing it repeatedly. It's also picking your execution and doing it over and over and over. So when you look at athletes, you realize, and I've heard professional coaches talk about whether it's golf, tennis, baseball, whatever. If you want to be the best tennis player in the world, you need to hit tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of balls, right? Over and over and over. If you want to be the greatest pitcher in all of history, you're going to pitch balls over and over and over, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever that looks like. If you look at your life as an artist and you're saying, I want to be successful, I will persist, I got the grit, I'm ready to go, let's go. But you're not willing to do the work over and over and over and be consistent about it, because the good work is always hard, right? People say, oh, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That is absolute nonsense. Work is hard. Doing what you love is hard if you're consistent at it, if you're developing your craft, if you're good at it. It doesn't matter if you love it. There's a lot of things that I love to do work-wise, and they're work. And it's not because I don't love them. It's because I'm always trying to perfect my craft, right? I'm always trying to do a better job of what I love to do. I love to do this. I love to educate, right? But I'm always trying to do a better job. I coughed during this video. Do I edit it? Do I not edit? All that kind of stuff goes in my head. And I'm just being transparent. Perfect case in point. I'm not going to edit that out. You know why? Because I would rather focus on educating you. But in being consistent, I could realize, you know what? My videos are cleaner when I edit out coughs. I edit out ums. And they're shorter and they're more compact. That's me getting better, right? So what you need to do is look at your life as an indie artist. Look at what you're trying to accomplish and say, am I being consistent in the things that work? And am I being consistent in trying to develop my craft and then doing it over and over because it's working? But I'm also tweaking. I'm also fine-tuning. I'm also looking at the things that are stronger and putting more fans in my accounts, making more people listen or helping more people listen, getting my songs out further, whatever it is, and then being consistent at it. Because the final piece I'm going to say here is if you talk to social media influencers, especially the people, kind of the coaches and gurus corner who are telling you what you should do if you want to expand like a coaching and consulting business or social media business, they will tell you, pretty much all of them, they're going to tell it, excuse me, they're going to tell you, be consistent. But consistency even in look and feel, like your color scheme, your imagery, if you're there have been times when I look at my Instagram, it's like I got cooking, I got family, I got travel, I got all kinds of stuff. But here's the thing. I'm not trying to make money off my Instagram. I'm not trying to do a certain thing with my Instagram. So for me, the consistency is actually a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's me being consistent. But for an artist, it can't be that. We, the consuming public, want to know our artists that we follow are this thing. We want to be able to define them. And I know as an artist, you might want to say, well, hey, I want to defy the rules that you're putting on me. I want to defy what I'm supposed to look like. But at the end of the day, you can't defy human taste, right? And so when you start to get out too far outside of the fold of genre, you realize you're going to lose some fans. So you start to stick closer to your genre. If you start to do too much of this or too much of that, or if your color schemes, today we're blue and reds, tomorrow we're black and whites, and then we're green and whatever, all of a sudden you realize people are perceiving this and they're like, this person's all over the place. Like, they don't even know who they are. Why would I care about an artist? I don't even know who they are. But when you think about the top artists in the world, we pretty much know who they are. We know their genres, we know their clothes, we know their colognes and perfumes. We know they're bubbly, we know their cars, we know, right? We know all these things about it. Part of that is consistency and image. This is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am. So that's a final piece of consistency I want to talk to you about. So persistence, going after it over and over. The grit, which comes with it, which is the mental mindset to say, I can do this, I can get over this. The consistency of doing it over and over, finding what works, and then doubling down on that and doing it better. And the final piece, I know I said final, this is your bonus, is being patient. It's going to happen if you work for it and you don't give up. If you give up, you're going to miss it, period. No question, statistically 100%. If you give up, you fail. So everybody, there's going to be a group of people watching this or that I've talked to, and they say, but how do I know I'm ever going to make it if I don't give up? Well, that's the beauty of the music business. You don't. You just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. I could think of so many artists, I could think of so many actors, so many different directors, anybody in the entertainment industry where they tried, and you're like, everything they do just doesn't seem to work. But then there's that magic moment. There's that breaking point. And we think in the music business of breaking an artist as if they were nothing, and then they broke, and all of a sudden the world knows them. But then what happens? They have their little spurt, their moment, their shine, and then what? We want to never give up. We want to be patient that this is coming. And if we have those 4 things, persistence, grit, consistency, and patience, it's inevitable. You can get this. So I'm gonna end it with that. Go after it. Write these things down. I would say even write them up on your wall, pin them up on your board, put them on your phone every morning. Look at these things. Persistence, grit, consistency, patience. It's going to happen, but you have to work for it. And if you have these 4 things, you're unstoppable. If you don't, you're stoppable. And what stops you is your mind, because all the blockades are already there. They're already set up. No one's trying to hurt you. But in fact, everyone's trying to stop you. So you have to be the one that will overcome all those obstacles. I know you can do it. Go after it today.